Hello, Team Basecamp. Coach Tim here with the review of today's Basecamp Vo2max intervals. Dan did a great job, nailed these intervals. I'm going to give you a short review and discuss how he did and how it's impacting his taper. But then I'm going to walk you through this concept of tapering and form or training stress balance so you can look at your own kind of tracking coming into the big event. Now, Dan is on the stage race. He's doing the stage race. So he has a full weekend or a little weekend plus of racing. So his plan might look a little different than yours, but we're going to see a really great example of how to track this. So first, let's drill into the workout green. You can see he nailed it. Go into analysis. He did this workout indoors, that nice controlled effort, and we can absolutely see that control. Um, I can see he had some heart rate peaks. So he had 1 minute up at 169. And he also had some power peaks, including a 5 minute power peak, which is awesome considering we're doing 4 minute intervals. Now, remember one thing I said. I said your 5 minute power peak was awesome. I warned everybody last week as we start to taper, and we've been given feedback about this. Don't push too hard, right? You don't want to be going too hard because you're going to get fresher, right? We're unloading our chronic training fatigue from the last 8 weeks and probably longer, depending on what you've been doing. And we're going to get fresher. And when we get fresher, suddenly we're like, wow, I feel pretty good. I can put out power. You got to be careful to not put out too much power. Dan does that. You can see, look at this nice control. Interval number 1. It's probably easier if I actually select the intervals. But interval number 1, he's 260. Just get to interval 1, pick the official one. Oh, that's 2. Interval number 1, he's 264 watts. If we go all the way to the last interval, he's 263 watts. So really good control. He's delivering each interval well. He's not going crazy, but he's probably feeling pretty good. But we also saw that he had some heart rate maxes. So if I show the heart rate, we can see it climbing a little higher each interval. Now he's reaching, but he's in control, that good controlled power. As we begin to unload and we taper, and we rested yesterday, we've had an overreach. This is still a hard workout. Notice it's more compact, right? Your heart, I'm going to skip some physiology here. As your heart gets fresher, right, as it recovers, you're going to see it be more responsive to exercise stimuli. It's going to jump a little higher and it's going to move up a little faster. Now, a lot of people see that and they mistake it for, oh, I'm losing fitness or something's wrong. It's fine. It's the exact desired response, meaning it's what we would like to see as a quality indicator of we're beginning to unload that load. Now, also during this next 7-10 days, depending on your taper, remember in the preview and look at these interval workouts that you do, keep your cadence higher. And if you look at his cadence, you can see it here in his last one. He did these all between 90 and 100 RPM. That's great. We don't want to find ourselves in these tapers of doing this low gear, big gear kind of grind now. There's a little that might be worthwhile, but generally let's avoid it, because that's creating extra muscular fatigue, and that's not what we want in this taper phase. By keeping our cadence high, we're transferring the load to our cardiovascular system. Keeping the strain on that system, which will recover very quickly, is good. Our muscular system, we want to unload. We don't want to be loading it up. So overall, he has a great workout. How do I know his heart rate is responding to the stimuli, but I'm still confident? Look at the tempo, high cadence tempo work he does right after. His heart rate is rock steady. His power to heart rate's around 1. Everything looks good there, right? So he's solid. Don't get me wrong, there's a little reacher, a little effort, but he didn't go crazy. He monitored himself well, and everything looks like it is supposed to. Now, let's talk about tapering. I'm going to jump over, let me move something here, to his dashboard, and I'm going to expand this. When we're looking at the PMC, the performance management chart, we can see his CTL has been growing, and particularly here in this little overreach we're going through, he's cramming in a little training, right? And here's today. But as we look through the next 7 to 10 days, you're going to see CTL will drop a little because we're tapering. His fatigue right now at the end of the overreach is pretty high. Look, it peaked at 160. Even today, he was 130. So that's a fair amount. That's the highest fatigue he had since some big summer event here. So he overreached well. He got ready to taper, right? That's what you're really doing, right? You push hard, you do the big work. Now you're tapering as that bakes in. But we can see over the next 2 weeks, his fatigue is going to get less and less and less. Now, this yellow line is known as form or training stress balance. Form is a measurement that takes your CTL and basically subtracts your ATL. Um, and really, it's the day befores, but let's not get into the technicality. And it gives us an indicator of that training stress balance. And form tells us if you're ready to perform, right? And that's a great way to think about it. To perform, we need to be fresh. We need that ATL to be low, and we want TSB to be anywhere from 0, maybe 5, to anywhere around 15 to 20. It really depends on the athlete, but that would show a good lightening up of the training load. Now, as you follow his form, his TSB, you can see it gets more and more positive, more and more positive, and race day actually starts right around here. We don't have training stress score in for the 4 days of or 3 days of racing for the stage race, but I think you get the point there. So if I go back to his calendar and I want to look at what that looks like day by day, if I click into this workout, notice his form is negative 33 today. Tomorrow, that was a hard workout, but not as hard as he's been doing. So his fatigue comes down and his form goes up. Now he's negative 26. Then he's Thursday, a reasonably hard day. His fatigue is still coming down. He's 114 now. His form is 19. So we keep tracking through. He rests a little here, easy recovery day, little just go for a walk, have some, gentle exercise at best. Comes back in, he does a single sweet spot effort, only an hour and a half, right? We're tapering. By Sunday, just not to click on them all, right? His fatigue is down to 92, but now look, his form is 4. His form is coming positive. He's tapering into the event. We rest a little more here. We have 2 harder days here. We see his form is around 18 coming into today. That means the next day, it'll probably be like 15. That's exactly where we want to be. You can look through your plans. Now, this is dependent. If you haven't done all the work, we planned it to be about 10, about positive 10 to anywhere from positive 8 to about positive 15, depends on the plan you're on. So you might see some variations based on maybe some yellows or some higher numbers. But in reality, if you've done all the work, like Dan has done, as you could see, you're going to be in that range. That's a good way to quantify training load and training freshness or fatigue, right? The other side of that, and your readiness to perform and how well your taper has gone. Hope that helps. Feel free to ask questions below. Thanks, everybody.